in life.
Okay.
I'm about to run a cable to it. This is an old Chromebook. This train is going now. We're not.
All right, we are back. Thank you very much for your patience and I just find it ironic that we were having IT issues right before the IT folks are getting on the talk, so I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. We'll go ahead and finish up a little bit here and then we'll get started again.
I mean, they're on, but I think
Yes.
Yeah, that's it, I can hear you.
You can hear it.
All right,
We're good.
Mr. Wilson, you're up.
Thank you. Whew, I'm tired. The reason I wanted to come to you today, talk about, we've been talking about this position, IT security position, for probably a year, and very seriously about the last 6 months or so. And what we're seeing is since we moved into this online environment, it's just so many user accounts are getting hacked and teachers' emails are trying to get hacked. So we simply don't have enough hours or manpower in the day to try to knock some of this down. And one of the biggest keys to knocking this down is just training and educating. And we've done security audits to find some things. We know where some weaknesses we have in our system are already, and we're trying to correct that. But what we're looking for is just additional help over in the IT department to get on top of it instead of us being reactive. Because at this point, we're reactive a lot. And we want to get in front of it. I tell people all the time, I says, I don't mind being a firefighter, but I want to be Smokey Bear and try to prevent it on the front end. And that's what this position is hoping to allow us to do over in IT.
Do we make any changes to the,
Yeah, we have, the qualifications for this position is a bachelor's degree in computer science, preferred a master's, plus 2 years of work experience, and then we've got hands-on with net flows and, attack artifacts in support of incident investigations. We had to do one of those today. Provision in antivirus, HIPS, ID, PS, full packet capture, of course, forensics, Hyper-V technology, that's what we use instead of VMware, and a little bit of Unix commands as well. That's the qualifications. And then we get into responsibilities of just safeguarding our network, preventing attacks and malicious things from happening, and do a lot of training. That's the key to keeping people out of your district. Keeping people out of your stuff is training the people that you have so they don't fall for these things. And a lot of this is going to be training disposition.
do you feel like any industry certifications that are preferred or needed as part of your job description?
Well, I'm sure when people apply, that they will send on their resume their certifications if they have some. I wanted to do that, but I was afraid with our pay scale that I wouldn't get, a lot of action. And so I'm hoping, probably what this person will be is some younger person that's just out of college, hopefully with a master's in cyber, and have a few certifications along the way. But I was afraid if it got real specific, I would limit my pool of applicants.
So the minimum is a bachelor's with the certifications, correct?
Right, so they've got to have a bachelor's and some work experience in the cyber field. But we hope to get a master's in cyber. Thank y'all.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark. Item C, discussion of one-time supplement for staff. So before we start this, to start an actual discussion, conversation, COVID-19 has created a different dynamic than any of us have ever had to experience. From our community, all aspects of our community been impacted by it, all aspects of society as a whole. And especially within the nursing and the medical profession, of course, there are multiple areas that they have put in hard, long hours to work through the processes of adapting to something that none of us had expectations that would actually occur. And with those new expectations, there's a whole different dynamic of navigating through this particular time. And it hasn't been any different for educators. You know, education has had to morph and change and do things differently in order to meet the needs of our students. And I'm one of the ones who always say that, you know, we have to keep our focus on our students and making sure that our students get what they need. And in order to do that, we've got to make sure that our faculty and our staff get what they need because they're servicing our kids and they're servicing them at a high level. And Madison County is, I feel like, is a superb, great county system, a great school system. I'll put it up against any other. Our system operates academically in the top 15% of other districts in terms of academics. But at the same time, we're funded at the lower 15%. We're number 116 out of 137 districts in school systems in the state. And that says a lot for what we actually have. And we say this all the time, that the special thing about our district, what makes our district what it is the people that we have inside of our district. The dedication, the focus on doing what's necessary to give our students exactly what they need to be successful, because we as adults have already had some form of success. And so our students, we have to do those things that's necessary to actually give them what they need. In every aspect of our district, I've seen from every aspect of our employees. I've seen long hours being placed in. I've seen new dynamic ways of educating and teaching. I've seen new dynamic ways of feeding students, from transportation to extra sanitizing, for caring for the needs of our students. Our employees have been exceptionally dedicated and have put in multiple hours and effort and energy during this particular time. Because what they're having to do now, they've never had to do before. And I am appreciative, as well as I know that our board is appreciative to the things that our people do. And I know we've had conversations on multiple times, all the time, and we're always talking about our people and what our people do for our kids, because our kids are our future, our students are our future. I can think of multiple examples, and I feel like I feel that it's appropriate to give those. I've talked to, I was coming out of Publix not too long ago and met a gentleman who was a lead bus driver in our district. He recognized me, and we proceeded to have a conversation. And that conversation was based on how much he enjoyed working with our kids, and even though he's having to do different things in terms of cleaning and sanitizing, things of that nature, his comment was, we've got to do this for our kids. We've got to do these, it's extra things, but we've got to make sure that our kids are healthy and safe, and making sure that they can get what they need and getting back and forth to school. CNP staff, our CNP go beyond and above the call of duty. They're making positive impacts in adapting to having to adjust lunch schedules. There are many of our CNP who in the past had to, who were feeding kids, our students, in the cafeteria. Now we have CNP staff who are delivering food, who are delivering meals. We're delivering meals to students in school during hybrid, but also in lines for the students who are outside of our school, outside of our building. I was at Endeavor today. Got an invitation just to kind of go and see what they were doing. And the CMP, along with SPED and SPED aides, were out there giving students little gifts as they came up through the line, because those students are on hybrid and they wanted them to have something special because they were not connected in school every single day. I mean, those are just extra things that our people were doing and have been doing. I think about in the summertime, the extra time and effort and energy that they put into feeding students, even when school was in a full remote mode. And I appreciate all of those things that our CNP staff has been able to do. Not to mention the adaptability that they've shown. Some of our schools have had their CMP staff had to be quarantined. Or CMP from other schools were willing to go and serve kids in other schools. I think that's an exceptional, thing for our people to do. I appreciate greatly the sacrifices they're making. Not to mention our custodial staff. Our custodial staff, they've taken on even greater responsibility. They've taken on the responsibility of making sure that our buildings are sanitized in multiple places, in hot areas, every single day.
I'm gonna interrupt Mr. Purdy for just 1 second. I'm getting text messages that we still can't be heard on YouTube.
If we're not being heard on YouTube, I think we're still being recorded, so we will.
No, sir.
It has record on the screen.
You can, it's fine, it's working fine.
It's got some?
It's
Okay.
working fine.
Okay. The greater responsibility, I was talking about our custodians, the greater responsibilities that they have.
I mean, didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay. Providing having additional responsibilities of fogging, disinfecting, cleaning the building even greater, sanitizing buses on a daily basis. They have gone above and beyond, and they have been doing so at a high level. And I appreciate, the things that they've done. Front office staff who are constantly in contact with individuals, our students, parents, and community coming inside and outside the building, dedicated and engaging with our students and dedicated and engaging with our students, our faculty and staff, our families who are coming into our buildings, in this era of COVID-19. Our nurses are putting in exceptionally long hours, contact tracing, looking at and making sure that we can continue to go to school, and making sure that we're having individuals who need to be quarantined, who are quarantined, and then getting the information out to faculty and staff about making sure that we are continuing to, be safe and sanitize and social distancing. And our teachers, in this atmosphere of COVID-19, they're not they haven't been satisfied. I've talked to multiple teachers who have not been satisfied with just the minimum in terms of virtual learning to our students. I've had the opportunity to go and visit schools where I can go to a classroom and I can stand in the door and I'm hearing engagement between teachers and students on virtual screens while students are in the seat as well. And to the extent that I've had teachers who didn't even recognize I was there because they were so engaged in the educational process. I think that's an exceptional thing that our teachers have been able to do. They have had to learn in a completely brand new way because online learning was not a continual part of the process that they had to be faced with every single day. And I appreciate as well as I know that our board appreciates, because I've had conversations with each one of you concerning the things that our faculty and staff, our teachers have been able to do and continue to do. You know, they're teaching at high levels. Many of our employees, many of our teachers are actually teaching, both virtual and traditional. There's some areas where it's extremely difficult to do something different. And they're actually doing it at high levels. They're working through it. They're working late hours. They're putting in additional time. They're putting in additional energy to make sure that that students are getting the things that they need to get in the classroom. And along with our custodians, our teachers, I've heard of teachers and seeing teachers are doing touch-up areas and things of that nature, stuff that they don't have to do, that our custodians are jumping in and actually doing. But I've heard of our teachers who are actually doing some of those same things because they wanted to make sure that their students are safe in their classroom. And not to mention just the late nights and the weekends. I've had an opportunity to call some of our teachers who are on my superintendent teacher council, and those individuals, I sometimes will call, and I'm in my office and it's 6:30, and hey, have questions to ask you about, and they're still in class, in their classrooms working, putting together activities for the next day, or getting ready for parent virtual meetings. Exceptional things that our people are actually doing. And I am, from the very first time that I heard about the different ways in which supplements and things of that nature have been given, I've had conversations with board members and we've talked about how, you know, how can we do that? What does that look like? How does that need to be done? How can we do that? What does our finances look like? You know, what is the legal ramifications or the realities that we have to be faced with when we do this? And it has always been my belief that all of our people deserve more. They deserve to, how can I say it? I think that our people have done a fantastic job to the extent that if the financial pieces as well as the legal pieces are in line, I think that, you know, it would be great to be able to do something that would help to further the additional work and services that they're actually doing. We continue, and I know we've had deep conversations concerning this. We continue even now to look at opportunities, examining our finances, examining the legality and ability to be able to do this, to do something for our people, with the expectation and the hope that if those things line up, if the financial capabilities as well as the legal opportunity line up, that we would love to be able to do something for our people. My hope is that over the next few weeks, we can create and look at a proposal that meets our financial opportunities as well as our legal opportunities in order to be able to supplement the continued additional work that our people are actually doing the second half of the school year. And again, it has to meet those qualifications. It has to meet those criteria. And I think that is something that's worth looking into and making sure that both of those things exist at the exact same time in order for us to be able to do something like that. I think that they have to exist. Both sides have to exist. And I know that I'm dedicated to looking into it and moving in a direction to make sure that both of those things are together and that we can actually accomplish that. Our system is different than a lot of other systems. We're funded at a lower rate. There are things that we have to do within our district that require us to be very, very diligent in examining what we can do, because we don't know where, we don't know the next thing that's around the bend that might come up that we may have to address. We're looking at our teacher numbers and making sure that we can lower our classroom numbers, as much as possible. So there are a number of things that we have to look at. And I feel like our district has always been one who have looked at and tried to do the very, very best that we can do to make sure that our kids get everything that they need, and to make sure that our faculty and our staff get what they need and also feel valued at the exact same time. And I believe that we still have the opportunity to be able to do that. So I just kind of wanted to just kind of put that out there, and then to just kind of open up the floor to any questions or any discussions that the board might want to have. Welcome.
Space.
Thank
Well,
Go ahead.
thanks, Alan, for your words. I just want to say a few things about it, from my perspective. There's not enough that we could do for our teachers to let them know we appreciate them. I think, from a board perspective, from my perspective, we definitely want to ensure that whatever we do does not put a burden financially on the district. And also, even more importantly, the legal requirements and the legal standard being met. That being said, if we can show our teachers and our staff a token of appreciation for what they're going to do for us this next semester going forward, I think it will go a long way, given this COVID situation and given all the things they've had to deal with, and what they will deal with, just to let them know we appreciate them. I think it's right, it feels right. And if the head aligns with the financial and certainly the legal, it's certainly, whatever it is, won't be enough. And I think that the dollar amount's probably less important to me, but just to let them know that we do appreciate what they are going to do for our kids, what they have done and what they continue to do. Being employed in this district for several years, knowing several people in the school system, I know the hard work. I've heard the anxiety from teachers, from support staff, custodial staff. These people have put themselves at risk. I consider them almost to the same degree as I consider first responders. So from my standpoint, I think to show them a thank you, we appreciate you for the work that you're going to do for us, I think that will go a long way. And if we can financially do it without an undue burden on the district, and if we can, certainly the legal, that's been a concern for all of us. And I appreciate Ms. O'Bannon mentioning those things in a previous board meeting, a couple board meetings ago. And I understood what your point was, that we need to make sure that this is done proper. If you do anything, it's got to be done properly, legally, financially. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. We need to hear that, so thank you. But that's all I have on that. I appreciate our teachers, I appreciate our support staff, and I do think that something to let them know we appreciate them for what they're going to do for us in the coming months would be worthy if we can do it.
I was gonna say you.
I definitely echo what Nathan said. I think that everyone in our community, and it's always weird to talk to nobody because I realize that normally there would be people from our community at these board meetings. But I want to be very clear that as a nurse, I also want to shout out to my girls and some of my fellows that I know school nursing has taken on a tremendous burden in order to keep the tracking and the paperwork and everything together. But I don't want to in any way, by saying that, communitize what janitors and bus drivers and CMP workers and bookkeepers and registrars, and I'm sure our SOR was cleaning chairs the other day. I mean, I don't think that there's a single person in this school system, but I also don't want to negate, there's not a single person in this community, in all of our communities. We have volunteers give out food. We have parents who are doing the best they can to try to help teachers get done what needs to be done. We have grandparents and neighbors. We have grocery store workers and the people who work in gas stations and the people who stock shelves and the people who do things day to day that we don't even recognize has created a hardship for them. You know, I think about even being on hybrid and how many parents are out of vacation time and out of the ability to be able to take care of their children at home, and people that have lost their jobs and would love to have a job to be able to come to. So I don't want in any way to think that I'm not thankful for our teachers. I am 100% thankful for our teachers, and I'm grateful for the extra work and the time and the risk that they have taken. But I want to make sure that our teachers know and our community know that that is not just a thank you to our teachers. It is a thank you to every single person who has powered through this and continued to keep a positive attitude and has done their best to make sure that their community, their neighbor, the students in their area. Because I don't want to negate that when we talk about giving some sort of financial support to that, I don't want our community to think that we don't recognize fully that that money comes from you. Those are taxpayer dollars. That is not my money. That is not state-funded money. That is money from that same person who stayed at home in order to be at home with their elementary child while they went through this. It is the grandparents that bought extra laptops so their kids would all have one. It is the grocery store worker that showed up, even though they have kids at home, to make sure that we have a place to buy food. So I just want to make sure that we are inclusive and acknowledge where this comes from, what gives us the opportunity to be able to even consider this, and that we have to do it in a way that is equitable to all those people. And I just want to make sure that nobody thinks that we're not grateful. It just has to be done in a way that is legal, appropriate, and does not create more hardship for everyone financially who is trying to do the best thing for our students. I think that's what I wanted to say. I really had a really long thing and wanted to be very eloquent, but as is the norm, I don't usually pull that off. So I think we're in a time frame where nobody really knows what the best options are, and we're all just trying to do our best to protect our fellow man and to say thank you when we can and to remain gracious to each other. So I hope we get that opportunity, but if we don't, please know that it has nothing to do with the desire to want to make sure that people feel appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, my point of view is that I certainly think all the effort and the time and the hours that they put in, I have a willingness to support rewarding that, but we didn't look ahead, and I want to do it in the spirit and in the letter of the law. So now we're looking ahead. So from my point of view, any supplement would be paid at the end of the year, not now, because we didn't look ahead, and that's what the law requires, is to look ahead. So I guess the timing of a payout is what my concern is about, so that we follow strictly the law and not just try to override it.
I think I echo your thoughts, Ms. Rucker, on that. I mean, the timing was off here, and I think that we've all expressed this, and I'll continue to express it, and we've expressed it not just tonight, but every time we sit here and move around the community. We have a deep affection and appreciation for all of our staff members, teachers, CMP workers, nurses, our janitorial staff, bus drivers, everybody that contributes to the overall educational health and welfare of our children in Madison County. But there is a process, and there's a legal constraint and process that needs to be followed. And I agree with Ms. Rucker. If it's something that we can pay out at the end of the year, merit-based, something that where there's a policy in place that defines, how we're going to do this. And as long as it is, from my perspective, fiscally responsible and it does not put the system in a position to where we are looking back going, ooh, maybe that wasn't the best expenditure of funds because we've had this happen or that happen and we need it. So I don't think it's not, there's no question that our employees have had to deal with some extraordinary things this year, and we are grateful for what they've done. But anything that we do as far as an incentive or supplement needs to fit and be within the constraints of the law and needs to be fiscally responsible. So we will continue to look at this. We will continue to research it. We will continue to look at it. I've talked with Mr. Perkins separately on this and asked him and the staff to kind of look at how we can do this and remain legal and remain fiscally responsible moving forward. So. Anything else on that? Anything else? Appreciate everyone's input and thoughts on this over the course of the last couple of weeks. So we'll move on.
Administrative items. Item A.
That's kind of like breathe. Okay, good. Okay.
Item A, I recommend approval of the 2021-2022 high school academic guide as submitted.
Motion.
So I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the 2021-2022 high school academic guide. Is there any questions? I know Tim was in here a few minutes ago. He's on the Zoom call. But any additional questions to what he already went over a week or so ago? I'll open it up for that. Comments? Okay, if there are none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Item B, I recommend approval of the math textbook adoption committee as submitted.
Motion.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the MAC Textbook Adoption Committee. Any comments, questions, or discussion?
Just want to make note that Miss Mary Louise, when we had this discussion, she was very informative about the process of textbook adoption. And I appreciated her input, but that's it.
She always was a good person to have there. There are none. If there is none, there are no other discussions or questions. All those in favor say aye.
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 Corrected grammar.
Yeah. You missed the early part of this. We had to stop the show here for a while so we could fix the audio, so we got off. Right. Just a little bit.
I thought you waited on me.
Well, that too.
It helped.
It did help, actually. Gave you time.
Item C, I recommend approval of the following final change orders regarding New Hope Elementary School, Sparkman High School, PAC project, and parking project as submitted. The mouthful.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the following final change orders regarding New Hope Elementary School, Sparkman High School, PAC project, and parking projects. Any discussion? And I see Mr. Kazor in here, so if anyone's got any questions, he might be able to answer those questions. So this is all done. Everything's done after this is taken care of?
Yes, after these are approved with Mr. Perkins' signature, send them off to the state, we'll make final payments.
Okay. Sounds good. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Item D, I recommend approval of Mary Stump to negotiate and enter into a resolution session agreement, mediation agreement, or settlement agreement in any special education complaint from the date of this board's action through December 31st, 2021 regarding special needs students.
Motion.
Good vote. I recommend approval of Mary Stump to negotiate and enter into a resolution session agreement, mediation agreement, or settlement agreement in any special education complaint from the day of this board action through December 31st, 2021 regarding special needs students. Any additional questions, comments, or discussion? This is very similar to what we authorized a year or so ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. It keeps us from having to come in here early in the morning to authorize. All those in favor say aye.
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 Item E, I recommend approval of the new policy 5.1.2G, alternative work setting as submitted.
Motion.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of new policy 5.1.2G, alternative work setting. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Item F, I recommend approval of the Director of Transportation job description as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the Director of Transportation job description. Any questions of Jack? Malone, anything? Anything you need to add?
Nothing that's not real motion.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Item F, I recommend approval of the Director of Transportation job description as submitted.
Supervisor.
Supervisor.
Reading wrong.
I have to keep my finger on it to get this right.
Yeah. Let's do that again.
Yeah, let me do it over.
Okay.
I recommend approval of the Supervisor of Transportation job description as submitted.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the Supervisor of Transportation job description. Any discussion? Again, the intent is to put these out on the street for people to apply for them tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
When we make changes like this, we don't have to retire any old position. Or does that happen just by virtue of salary statement? Like, I'm thinking we got rid of some positions and rid of these positions.
Okay, so the Supervisor of Transportation position, we had a retirement there. We adjusted that salary and actually put it on the same salary with the rest of the supervisors in that department, which puts them on that same classified salary scale. So that eliminated that salary that individual was making at a higher rate, so it actually went down.
Yeah, so there's no titles that go away.
A title has not gone away.
Okay.
So I thought you were getting at this. Any additional questions or discussion? If there are none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
I recommend approval of the IT security specialist job description as submitted.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second for the recommendation for approval of the IT security specialist job description. Any questions? Again,
Saying thank you, Nathan, for being the expert on this. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I looked at it and, we had, Mr. Malone, we had a conversation about it. You know, given that we're a school district and of course, funding, this role could be a very lucrative role outside of the school system. So the qualifications are less than than what we would have, which you see out in the industry. But if we get somebody to Mark's point earlier, you could get somebody who's new in the field or has, degrees in the field. We may be able to get somebody and kind of build them up. But the challenge is keeping them. That's going to be a big challenge. If you bring somebody in and they have a job and they're doing it, they're probably going to leave us pretty soon. I think that's pretty much a foregone conclusion. But I think the requirements are good. I think they're solid. The more you put in there, the more people are going to say, why aren't you paying me more for it? So I think it's appropriate for what we're asking for.
I think it's important when you're interviewing to find somebody that's passionate about education, has a passion for being in the system.
Any additional comments? Thanks, Nick.
I hope that passion will override the salary they could get outside the district.
It's business. I mean,
That's a fact.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Item I. I recommend approval to amend the 2020-2021 salary schedule to include the new positions and the pay realignment for the supervisor of transportation position as submitted.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval to amend the 2021 salary schedule to include the new positions and pay realignment of the supervisor of transportation. Motion? I'm sorry, discussion? There is none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item J. I recommend approval of the fiscal year end October 2020 and payment of bills for October 2020 as submitted.
Mr. Perkins, I didn't catch that typo there. It's actually the monthly October 2020 instead of fiscal year end.
Okay, so we do that over.
That on the agenda, it's correct.
Okay. Let me redo that recommendation. I recommend approval of the monthly October 2020 and payment of bills for October 2020 as submitted.
Motion.
So I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the monthly October 2020 and payment of bills for October 2020. Any discussion? If there is none, all those in favor say aye.
Item K. I recommend approval of the contracts for services as submitted.
So I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of contracts for services as submitted. Any discussion? If there is none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Item L. I recommend approval of the following bid as submitted.
Motion.
A motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the following bid as submitted. Any discussion? If there is none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item M. I recommend approval of the following personnel items and addendum as submitted.
motion.
We have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of the following personnel items and addendum as submitted. Any discussion?
Most of the schools haven't utilized the COVID relief position.
There's quite a few that I signed off on. It's,
In addition to the,
yeah,
they're here.
yeah, I thought I saw some on here. Let me go back and see. Yeah, there's some on here.
See one.
No, it should
The
be.
addendum.
The addendum, page 1 to 9.
Yeah, on the addendum should be, several on that. Oh, that's not, yeah,
Sorry, I see it.
yeah, page one, and then,
I got it.
But there are quite a few to go.
Yeah.
So it just happened.
Right, right.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. We just posted it 2 weeks ago or less. So. All right, any other discussion or questions? If there is none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
and again, I recommend approval of supplements as submitted.
Motion.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval of supplements as submitted. Any discussion? There are none, all those in favor say aye. That does end our administrative stuff for the evening. We are going to adjourn into the executive session to discuss some pending litigation. You have a certification to go into executive session.
Yeah, it's actually for imminently like,
Okay, got it.
I have a notification. You also have the real estate matter.
Correct. All right. Does anybody have anything for the good of the board or? This is our last meeting before the Christmas holidays and the New Year's holidays. So on behalf of the board and everybody here, we wanted to wish all of our community members, all of our faculty, staff, employees, Merry Christmases, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy New Year as we move forward. We've been hearing this a lot. I don't think it's going to happen, but as 2020 exits and 2021 comes in, we can only hope that 2021 gets better. It'll certainly start out on the same foot that we're already in right now, but certainly as we move forward in 2021, let's hope for a much better year than what we've had in 2020 all around. I think everybody would agree it's been a challenge from every aspect of life. But enjoy your holidays, enjoy your time with family and friends that you can get together with, and please be safe. If you travel anywhere, be safe. We want you to come back in one piece and see you back here at the beginning of the first week. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn into, oh, Ms. Mann. Oh, yes, thank you very much. You got mine, but
It is the
all board members should have a
certification
certification.
for the state examiners.
There you go. And if you would please fill that out and sign it and just leave it up here in the front, we will pick those up and then we can continue to complete our audit for the year, correct?
Yes, sir. Thank
Are
you.
they done with the audit?
They just started.
Oh, they just started, okay.
Yes, sir.
But I knew they were not going, I didn't know if they were done yet or not.
They started, a couple weeks ago.
Okay,